What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Make an Impact podcast with real stories, real people, and real impact. My name is Stephen Turnbull. I'm an entrepreneur, husband, and father on a mission to empower individuals to share their stories so they can make an impact on you. Man, am I super excited today. We have New York State Senator Joe Griffo in the house, 35 plus years of public service. And that's what we focused on is who is Joe? A lot of people in our community know Senator Griffo. They've worked with him on different things, whatever it might be. You see him at every public event out there. But we really dove into tell us your story, why public service, why 35 years and counting. I'm super excited for you to learn more about Senator Joe Griffo. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Make an Impact podcast. Super grateful to have New York State Senator Joe Griffo in the house today. Thank you so much for taking your time. How are you?
I'm great, Steve. Great to be here with you and Mike, and it's great studio. I mean, it's quite impressive.
Appreciate
Very impressive.
We've put some time into it, building it out, and just super excited for you to take your time. I know your schedule's super busy. As we talked about before we record, I want to just learn more about Joe and give our listeners, with all the years of service that you've given to this community in different roles, and kind of walk through that, take a little back, go back in our DeLorean, if you will, a little bit to how it all began. But tell us about
the sequel. Are you announcing a sequel?
This
to the,
exactly.
Is this like part 4? This would be right.
That's going to be at the end.
Yeah,
we got to keep
all
people
right.
around. But talk to us about the beginning, because you're Rome native, grew up in Rome.
Sounds like Genesis.
That's right.
That's
right. We were talking about the Clinton-Rome hockey already. But, talk to us about the beginning before the public service started.
Well, as a young man, I was very fortunate. My grandparents immigrated here from Italy and really worked hard. And so when my dad and mom, when I was raised in Rome, which is a great city, my hometown, just taught to work hard, be honest. They instilled a lot of the attributes and the traits that I think are important when you build character as an individual. So I was very fortunate. I went to public school. I think they wanted to send me to parochial school originally, but I think when I look back, and I used to hear the stories, both my parents are now deceased, and when I look back and remember, they were telling me the story how they didn't have a kindergarten for parochial kindergarten at the time, kindergarten. So I went to public school for kindergarten, then they were going to send me to parochial school, the Catholic school. And so they gave me a choice, and I go, who gives like a 6-year-old a choice? That's pretty good, right? And I insisted on staying in the public school system, right? And unfortunately, they let me, and so I graduated from Rome Free Academy, went through all of the elementary, junior high, and high school in Rome at RFA. Great school system. So I'm a Black Knight. I root for everybody, but there's always a special place in my heart for RFA. And from there, I went on to school at SUNY, a graduate of SUNY Brockport. And at that point is, I think, when I started to generate this interest in public service. I didn't know what I really wanted to major in initially. As you know, when you start as a freshman, you're looking at a lot of things. And I began to have this real interest in contemporary events and affairs, as well as trying to make something happen in a community. Many of our communities here have gone through transition over time. And growing up there, seeing cities that were larger than lost population, because a lot of times we were relying on one particular segment of the economy, I just said, what can I and do I want to do to serve? And I studied political science. And it became more and more enjoyable when I saw this. And I said, I want to see what I can do to enter public service, not knowing what I would do. One time I looked at the Foreign Service, quite honestly, thinking this is intriguing, and taking courses in international relations and things of that nature. And I graduated magna cum laude from SUNY Brockport, which is outside of Rochester, and then started to look at master's programs. And I applied. I did an internship in Albany at the time, ironically, in the state assembly. And I was really intrigued with that, too, is this hands-on experience. I would totally recommend and urge any young individual who, whatever you pursue, if you have that opportunity, and that's why I strongly believe in this also now, and I'll explain later why we participate in internship programs. But I really had a great experience there. And when I graduated, I had applied to a number of colleges because I decided, having gone to a SUNY school, that I would love to be able to root for a D1 team, and maybe I should look at some D1 schools now. So I applied to University of Texas. I had an affinity with the West Coast and the University of Southern California at the time, and Texas. And I applied to Penn State, Texas, and USC, got accepted at all. But something happened along the way where we had an individual running for mayor of the city of Rome at the time. It was an open race, and the individual's name was Carl Eilenberg. He was very well known in the community, was an owner of the radio stations in Rome, former sportscaster in Syracuse. He's from Syracuse, had relocated to Rome many years before, and was involved in each and every aspect of the community. Real personality. In fact, he was the voice of the Orange. He continued, even when he got elected mayor of Rome, to be the announcer for both football and basketball at the Carrier Dome.
Super cool.
And he had asked and got me involved in that campaign. And I said, I can wait. I'll put everything else on hold now. And so then I worked in that campaign. I really believed in him and what he wanted to do, this vision for our community. And once he got elected, then he asked me to stay. And the rest is history. I began public service in local government. And then when the opportunity presented itself but you guys, I don't even know if you were born then. You probably 1993 guys, right?
1994.
94. All right, really rub it in now, right? Because I then took a job with him in 1992. So
we weren't thought of.
You guys were maybe being thought of, you know what I mean, at the time. But and I started working in local government. And when he left in 1992, I got elected mayor of the city of Rome. And I was at the time the youngest mayor, and still, statistically, younger than Zoran Mondami when he got elected in New York City, got elected the city of Rome mayor. They had a mayor that was similar age, but under the city manager form of government, which is the mayor then is more ceremonial, as opposed to a strong mayor form of government, which Rome and Utica both have here, where you're basically the CEO of a public corporation.
So your first experience was working on that campaign, right? And then you, when he was elected, you worked for him, and then when that opportunity came and you took the mayoral position, what would you say from a public service standpoint was something maybe you didn't expect immediately, looking at that, coming from school, the campaign, and then now being the guy?
Oh, sitting in a chair? Yeah. That's a great question, Steve. So the campaign could be very arduous. It's very demanding, and you really have to have people get to know you, as well as you getting to make more familiar with various issues and community needs and challenges. So we ran a great campaign. It's probably one of the most fun campaigns we had, because a lot of people just believed in me and just kind of supported me because they really, bought in to who I was and what I visioned for the city, which there was a long time that people would always ask, and you guys that do interviews would understand this, and the media did it for a long time, is give me a one word for your vision of this for the city. And like, okay, seriously, one word, the vision of the city. I struggled with that for a while, not that I'm a talker, but I mean, I just said one word is tough. But I finally got the word in my mind of what my vision was, and it remains that today for our community and our region, the district and the region, is vibrancy. I want a vibrant community. And so running poses a lot of challenges. But then ultimately, and I give this advice to many of my successors and many of the guys that now have come into office, like more just recently in the city of Rome and the city of Utica, to both mayors, I've always offered myself to talk about what it was like and what to expect. And the one thing is, everything is unpredictable because nothing is the same. As I said, generally, I consider it to be a CEO of a public corporation. But on the other hand, there's so many things that happen. So what I say to each of them is, you may think you know it and you may be close to it, but it's a whole different thing when you sit in the chair. And I had the opportunity to work near the mayor towards the end of his term. I started all in community relations, things of that nature. But at the end, I was serving in a more administrative capacity for the mayor in his last 2 or 3 years. And so when I was running, and that's why I presented myself, because I said, yeah, this is great. I've got these ideas for the city, and I think I can make a difference. And the campaign went well. We were underdogs to begin with, but ultimately had a primary and a general, and we were successful in all. And when I finally got elected, I'm thinking, I'm ready for this, until the second day came. And it's like, wow, you now have to really make some very difficult decisions, even for small cities. And I actually think sometimes the smaller cities are more challenging, because when you look at a city the size of New York City, you got layers and layers of staff and other individuals that are working on things for you. But when you're in a smaller city like the Uticas and Rome, you have the same issues, from public safety to public works to parks and transportation. But you don't have the staff that you have there. So you really got to tackle these things and give it everything you have. So I think it's even more challenging sometimes, because you have the same challenge, but the different resources.
Yeah.
So so I think when you sit in that chair, and it's a 24/7 job, you don't get to turn it on and off. Like a lot of people say, well, he wasn't in his official capacity. Well, do you get time off? Do you want to go to a game or something like that? Absolutely. I mean, you're a human being. However, even when you're at a recreational event for your family or yourself, if something happens, they call you.
You're the mayor.
You're the mayor.
Yeah.
And I think, or the county executive, or the governor, or the president, by nature of our structure in America, with the 3 co-equal branches of government, the executive branch is running the operations and the administration of that community or state or country.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important thing to know, that I got used to very early morning phone calls. You know how sometimes the phone rings, like at 3 a.m, and you're startled? Well, it got to the point, and I served for 3 terms for 11 years. I didn't get through the whole 12 because I resigned and ran for county executive. Yeah. But the point is that those calls became almost, the phone would ring in the middle of the night, and I just pick it up because I knew, and you had to be alert and prepared, for something that may have happened in the community, mainly public safety at that hour. You were getting calls either from law enforcement or fire service, but it's a challenge.
Yeah. So at that time, I kind of want to work our way through to where we are today. In 2003, is that county executive?
Yeah.
Right. So what was the why behind taking that next level?
Well, I mean, an interesting thing, if you look historically, it was just before that, I think it was maybe 97, there was a transition, and they were looking for people to be considered for county executive. And I was mentioned and urged to consider it, and I did at the time. And they chose then was Assembly Member Ralph Yennis, who became Judge Yennis after. And Ralph got it. There was a number of us that they interviewed, the county controller, Pat Donovan, great guy, a lot of good people. And Ralph, so I looked at it then, and then I just said, this is it. And I was determining what I should do next. I wasn't sure. I'd serving my 3rd term as mayor. Would I continue? Would I go try to look at something different, go into private work? And all of a sudden, Ralph decided to take a judgeship, and they left a vacancy in county executive. And on that one, they called me. You know what I mean? I got calls from legislators and everything saying, hey, we really want you to consider this. And I wasn't sure, but I agreed and then got interviewed. The way they have worked it is you had an appointment, and then you face election.
Gotcha.
And normally somebody leaves and they start at the beginning of the year, like January, and they have a full year, and then they're running, right? For me, I got in there in June, or the end of June. It was July, and then had a run in September. And I'm thinking, was this a wise decision I just made? And put a budget together, because the budget is due in October for the county. I'm thinking, I'm scratching my head saying, wait a minute, I listened to everybody urging me to do this, but I'm wondering if I'm doing the right thing here. Yeah. Fortunately, we were successful.
Yeah. And
that was 2003 election that we were elected county executive.
And so now it's been 19 years as state senator. Correct?
Well, that's another great story, because our current county executive, Pacenti, is the longest serving county executive in the county's history. and I was one of the shortest serving county executives. Me and former Congressman Sherwood Bullard both served about 3 years. Sherry was county executive who ran for Congress. And in this same situation for the Senate, I was recruited. I didn't go seeking this initially. And I had a number of people coming to me. There was an opening, and it was an open seat. And originally I said, I don't know. I was trying to figure it all out. Bottom line is, we waited with a lot of people giving their input and pushing, and we did in 2006. By then, you guys were playing hockey, I hope.
Yeah.
All right, that's
that
good.
time, yeah.
All right, and then I ran for the Senate with a lot of encouragement, agreed to do it, and thankfully we were successful in that campaign too, and that brought us to holding the office I hold today. I could say during that time, I've been approached several times to consider running for the U.S. House, which I have turned down several times, each time because I knew it just wasn't right for me and my family. And with all of the national issues that are being, that face the House now, and with a lot of the acrimony, I just didn't feel that was the right place, that I could do more and be better serving the people of the Senate district than going state to the federal level. There have been people that have interviewed me and put me on some lists for consideration for statewide office. Again, it just never was right, or maybe I wasn't the right match, when they were looking. So because
you
find a lot of
curtain
balance
of that a little bit and you talked about just in public service world in general, you talk about you were recruited for this, you were recruited for that. Talk to us about that balance of being recruited for this. Like, hey, Joe, you're going to be a great fit for this versus here's why I don't feel it's the right time or a right fit for me.
You're talking about behind the curtain. I thought it was kind of a version of the Wizard of Oz here now. You know what I mean? I'm like, because I do represent Chittenango now. That is the birthplace of Frank Lloyd Baum, who wrote The Wizard of Oz. And now it's Wicked, though, right? Everything is on Wicked. But I think, it's an interesting thing because, particularly like when people come to you and urge you to consider something or really push you to consider something too, it's an honor. I mean, because it shows that people have a high regard for you, I hope, or they respect you and feel that you have done your job and done it well. So there's a part of that that's like, wow, I've come a long way from my grandfather. And when you look at the stories historically, right, of somebody who came here and had to really work really hard, and worked in a mill, and then generations later, his grandson was able to hold elective office successfully. It's a great story, and that balance. So what that weighs when you're like trying to make a decision, like, wow, this is kind of interesting, and I think I can actually do something good with this opportunity. But then you have to look at the demands on your life, as we talked about, and family life, and you find that balance that, in life, there are a lot of decisions that have to be made for everybody, and you just try to do the best you can at the time with what you know and what you think could be the challenges. And so travel comes into it. Like now, there's a lot of travel in my current position. So a lot of factors that you weigh. So while it's always enticing and you feel really honored that people would come to say, we think you would be great for this, I also know that, hey, there's somebody else that could do some of these. Nobody's indispensable. We've all learned that, in my opinion, throughout life. But you do the best you can. And I think we've worked hard. Go back to how it all started, Steve. Raised to work hard, be honest, and respect people. And that's what I've tried to do throughout my career and tenure in public service, and hopefully we've made a difference, and I've been very fortunate. We've had some great people that work for me. I've always felt that we've had a good eye for talent. I mean, I probably would have recruited you guys maybe to do something different than wings and hockey. I don't know, but I think we've had a good team too, people that really care about the community. And you don't get into this, because you're going to make a lot of money or get a lot of accolades. You get into it because, and I hope, and I want to continue to see the right people do this for the right reason, because you care. And you're hopefully going to make a difference. And I know we've done this in the Senate office now. Deanna Stafford, who does our constituent relations, and she's with me today, they do a lot of things to make a difference in people's lives when they have problems with state agencies, or businesses with a state agency, and the letters you get back later. It makes you feel great, to know that we were able to help someone and make a difference in that person's life. Even during COVID, here the pandemic, our office was functioning so well that we were getting calls from people that had issues with the unemployment insurance from the Department of Labor, things of that nature, from all parts of the state. And you know what? We helped. Instead of referring them back, we would always, there's such a thing as legislative courtesy, don't take somebody else's issues and you kind of defer to them. But in this case, because of the nature of what was taking place, I talked to my colleagues. They didn't have any problem with it. Yeah, you guys can do that if you want, But we handled a number of successful things that helped people. Yeah. And I think we got that reputation, and that's why people started calling our office from Long Island,
Sure.
So
Sure. I think in life there's, for no pun intended, two sides of the aisle where it's, you can either, you have a problem or a challenge and you can be a part of the change and be a part of the action to do it, or just complain about it, right? And I mean, I think it takes a lot for somebody like yourself and the people that you've mentioned to be in public office and put yourself out there and say, I'm going to do my best to be a part of the change. What would you say to younger people in 2026 that are looking at this type of career ahead from now?
I have a lot of concerns with the political environment and everything that's out there from a technological perspective. When you look at deep fakes, when you look at AI, which I believe will have a productive, positive use, but also could be harmful in some ways too. And this is going to be an interesting issue to navigate over the next year or two, right, as all this emerges. And I always believe that we should position, and I've tried to do this in the executive and legislative branches, to position our community to be able to take advantage of every emerging economic opportunity, so that you don't rest on your laurels, or you don't particularly just embrace one particular segment of industry. Another good word that I use a lot is diversification, to have a diversified portfolio, so that the redundancy, so that you're not, just saying we live and die with this one particular industry. And for a long time, our region did that. So I think the advice I would give them is you really, first and foremost, need to be more well-read. You need to understand and know what's going on. So first you get interested. You got to get interested in order to appreciate and understand. As you know, you hockey players, right? You had to practice before you got into the game. You don't just lace up the skates and go out there and all of a sudden, here you are. I'm here to play and I'm going to win the Stanley Cup. And I think
Mike used to be able to do that.
Yeah. You had him doing versions of running up and down the ice, right?
Yeah.
So I think, it starts with, information, right? Get informed, right? And then you need to become interested. So once you're informed and you're interested in the subject areas or the issues of the day, you put those two together, interest and information, then you can become involved and engaged in your community, because now you can come in and really offer something, right? I mean, anybody can do anything. I get it. But I think that's the concern I have, and that's the advice I would give. And I do this a lot of times. I've been fortunate to get invited to the American Legion's summer program for youth leadership called Boys State over, and there's Girls State too, and where they try to teach them about government and get them interested in government. And those are basically the points I make with them every year when I'm sitting there. It's about, interest, information, and then involvement.
Which it was a perfect way to answer that question. And one of my last questions I have for you is,
boy, can you call my wife and tell her that?
I'll tell her.
A perfect way to answer her question. That would be great.
With all that you said, going on 35 years of public service, what keeps you going?
What keeps me going is knowing that I can continue to make a difference. And I still have the energy, I have the experience, and I have the true love of community and the genuine desire to serve. And you can talk to anybody that works with me. They know that I continue to push each and every day. And it goes to your athletic backgrounds. You know that in order to excel and to win a championship, you have to practice and you need to continue to challenge yourself. That is something that I've done throughout my time in public office, always challenging myself, trying to ensure that we're paying attention to the people and to the issues, and then ultimately addressing them and trying to make that difference.
Last question. What do you want people to know of the legacy of Joe Griffo?
Gee, that's probably one of the toughest questions somebody's asked of me.
Really? That's a compliment.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. It's almost like that one-word vision question, right?
That was the next one. I'm sorry.
Took me a while to do that one. So, the legacy is I hope people will know that I served with honor and distinction and made a difference.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. We're going to wrap up because I know you're busy man.
I gave you a new name for the podcast.
TNT.
I want to call it TNT, baby.
This is the Make an Impact podcast, but maybe next week it'll be the TNT podcast.
Right.
Senator Griffo.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, go out there, lead with purpose, and make an impact in someone's life today, even if that's your own. My name's Stephen Turnbull. We'll see you next week. Take care.